Dear students, let us start the discussion on today's newspaper, that is 21st June 2016. The first article is related to Office of Profit. Here we need to analyze two things. To what extent the recent appointment of parliamentary secretaries by Delhi government is against the constitution and law. And the second aspect is to what extent the Supreme Court judgments hold the constitutionality of Office of Profit as a whole. So in this, the Delhi Legislative Assembly, it has passed a bill, that is MLA's removal from disqualification bill in 2015, and it is to keep the parliamentary secretary positions as out of the Office of Profit. If you see Article 102 and 191 of the Constitution, yes, the Legislative Assembly is competent to declare certain offices not to be regarded as the Office of Profits. So, from this perspective, yes, it is a valid thing. And second, historically, if you observe, Office of Profit has its origin in a conflict between House of Commons and Crown in UK. Crown used to appoint various members of House of Commons for work in the executive. Because of that, there is a natural conflict of interest established between the members of the House of Commons to represent the public interest in the House and the executive powers they have to perform. So finally, a settled debate is this. So the members of the Parliament shall not hold any Office of Profit. As an extension to this, in India, Supreme Court from various judgments declared that a office, it shall not be connected with the powers of executive. It means it shall not control the functions. The executive shall not control the functions of the office, and the office shall not be paid from executive, and then the office shall not create any pecuniary advantage to the incumbent. So these are the conditions laid by the Supreme Court. And in UC Raman case, Supreme Court has clearly said that an Office of Profit shall have a pecuniary gain for the individual to be considered and removed from the office, or to disqualify a member as a member of parliament or legislature. He shall have a pecuniary gain from the said Office of Profit. In Kataria case, Supreme Court held that the provisions of 102 and 191 can also be applied with a retrospective effect. So if we observe all these things, there is a little chance that the MLAs of our government in Legislative Assembly of Delhi will be disqualified. Coming to reforms. Now you know that the reforms are given a big push by the government through the FDI norms, relaxation in FDI norms. There are two routes, automatic route and approval route. Through approval route, it has to go through, approval of the government, with the agency, that is Foreign Investment Promotion Board, which is there under the DIPP. So it means there are two routes essentially. One is the approval route, the other one is automatic route. So in this context, the defense sector, 100% FDI is allowed in high-tech and highly sensitive equipment. And normal case, it is 49%. So with regard to this high-tech sensitive equipment, this is what has been changed to, our state-of-the-art technology is changed to modern technology. So now, in defense, 100% FDI is allowed in modern technology. So it will allow, or else it will lead to establishment of subsidiaries in India by original equipment manufacturers. And coming to single brand retail, previously there was 30% clause from local sourcing, or it means the total value of the product, 30% has to be brought in from the local goods. So this can be waived for the state-of-the-art cutting-edge technologies. But now government removed all this confusion, and it has clearly stated that the 30% local sourcing is compulsory, but it will be waived for 3 years, and then for next 5 years some norms will be relaxed. So It means it's going to pave way for the entry of the Apple into India. And the next, with regard to aviation sector, so 100% FDI is allowed in brownfield airports, and also with airlines, 100% FDI is allowed now. It means the airlines shall not need to look into, or any investment company wants to establish airlines in India need not look into the local partner to come into Indian aviation business. So these are the developments. But however, so if we see any investment, if it has to flow into the country, three things are very much important. So other than the relaxation of the norms, the return on investment. So it means there has to be a sound market, and India has is the major strength of India. And second is the market controls and curbs initiated by the government. So to the possible extent, investors expect little of government intervention and a better predictability of the policy. And finally, with regard to the management of a company, so any investor expects to have the management under his control to run the company to his necessities, or it means these three, the management control has to be within the investor's hand. These three are the major reasons that attract the foreign direct investments. So with regard to the India, the major problem is unnecessary state intervention sometimes. And the relaxation norms, yes, it has addressed the third issue, but the first issue, it is always the strength for India. Now coming to Zika virus, we all know that Zika virus, it causes the microcephaly, and it is very much prevalent in South America. Microcephaly means babies born with small head. So now, the Zika virus, where it was prevalent, Olympics are going to be held, that is in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. Olympics are about to be held. So in this context, the control of this vector-borne disease and its transmission is very much important. If not, a global epidemic can be created. So it is being transmitted through Aedes aegypti mosquito, and after that there is a vertical transmission from mother to fetus. And then recently a sexual transmission of this virus is also observed. So in this context, a strong vertical or strong vector control measures and also some precautions, these are very much necessary to stop this epidemic which can be spread through this Olympics. And India is very much susceptible because the Aedes aegypti mosquito is has huge prevalence in India. So if you observe carefully, now chikungunya and all these diseases are also spread by the same mosquito, that is Aedes aegypti. Now coming to India-Iran relations, the one major issue between India and Iran is India's repayment or India's payment of $6.3 billion to Iran, which it is indebted due to oil imports. But there are series of sanctions imposed on banking sector for transfer of the finances to the Iran by the United States. So India's transfer of money to Iran is not affected because of its intentions not to transfer, but it is more affected because of the lack of proper route to transfer. Even though the P5+1 talks led to the removal of these restrictions, they did not go all the way. There's still, there are many restrictions still in place, which is inhibiting India to complete its transaction with Iran. So, now coming to devolution of power. So, the center is devolving the powers to the states, and the states have to devolve the powers to the local governments. The 14th Finance Commission has clearly stated certain guidelines how the states have to devolve the powers to the local governments. So in this context, the horizontal devolution and vertical devolution, it means devolving from states to local and from the local to the various bodies in the local governments. And what shall be the basis is been clearly stated by 14th Finance Commission. In India, the major problem is this. There is no adequate mechanism to the transfer of finances to the local bodies, or there are no powers given for them to raise their own taxes. And now all of a sudden, government has brought in Amruta Smart Cities mission, where it is expecting the local bodies to have their capabilities to raise the resources and to provide the services, quality services to the people. But over a period of time, there is a gross neglect and lack of accountability, proper auditing procedures. That is, no structural and institutional measures taken up in the local governments. So this need to be improved. Now this is what has been stated. And coming to inflation, what the Raghuram Rajan has stated is this. Inflation shall be the cornerstone for the RBI's monetary policy. So he expects his incumbent who is going to come after him has to take care of the inflation. So what he says is, in the short term, inflation and growth appears to be at crossheads to each other, but in the long term it is not. So the low inflation ultimately leads to better growth. So we shall not see them as conflicting to each other, but we shall provide for an facilitation of them together. So that's what is Raghuram Rajan was talking about. And then a committee high-level meet on rupee, because after the exit of Raghuram Rajan as RBI governor, it can lead to fluctuation in the functioning of a rupee. It means there might be the flight of capital. So in this context, what has to be done? So India has released millennium bonds for NRIs, and similar thing can be taken up. And India also has currency swap agreements with different countries, which also can come handy for India if there is a volatility of rupee. So these are the things we need to understand. So I will update today's Indian Express tomorrow. Thank you very much.